Well, 3 decades ago, over the hills and far away, the world first met the adorable Teletubbies. Tinky Winky, Dipsy, Laa Laa and Po won hearts around the world, entertaining children in more than 120 countries.
Generating $1 billion empire, Tubbyland became the place of dreams. And right in the middle of the action were John Simmit and Nikki Smedley, who played Dipsy and Laa Laa for almost 400 episodes. John and Nikki, join us live. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. And if we actually said that right, Nikki, we'll start with you. What was the process of getting the role of Laa Laa?
Well, like almost never happens, I'd been a dancer for many years, and I was at the ripe old age of 34. And it doesn't sound like very old, but it is for dancing. And I kind of thought, well, I need to do something else because my knees were hurting. So I looked around and I answered an ad in the back of the stage newspaper, and it said, artists with stamina required for a new children's TV show. And people with unusual backgrounds and personalities particularly welcome. And I thought, well, that's a bit unusual. So I wrote off and I applied, and they called me for an audition, and I went to the audition, and I had, from my dance I used to run my own dance company, and I had this kind of big tabletop that you wore around your waist. I'd made a show that was kind of like a photo love story, and I played the lover's favourite table at the favourite Italian restaurant for a while. So I made this I got the table and sort of made this little song about being in love with the chair. Did that.
Wow.
Oh, fantastic. And that got you the role.
Yeah, and then that was the first audition, and then they kind of whittled down through the thousands and thousands of people who must have applied. And amazingly got the job.
Oh, fantastic. Now, John, is it true that you incorporated your own spin to Dipsy's voice and dance moves?
I did indeed. In fact, we all did. Koi Fan Lee, Simon Shelton, RIP, and also Nikki. We all brought a bit of our own flavour. My background is Jamaican, Cuban, Brummy, and I've been playing a sound system for many years. So some of the songs we played on the sound system to this day, I incorporated. So what Dipsy's doing as he's walking along is actually a classic reggae tune called The Whip by the Ethiopians. So slipped it in there, and it's...
What was it life like in those costumes, John?
Hot and sweaty and a bit surreal, because it was like a little bit like being in a postbox. No peripheral vision, earpieces to tell you what's going on. You're trying not to step on your colleagues and fall over. Very sweaty and probably interesting, but probably a bit not pleasant for the dressers who would help us out of the suits 3 to 4 to 5 times a day.
Thank goodness. And you just distract yourself by just thinking of a little bit of reggae music in your ears. Perfect. Now,
and other things.
Yes.
Now,
Nikki,
of the economy days.
So, Nikki, since you moved on from the role, you've actually both continued in the entertainment industry. What are you both up to now?
Well, during lockdown, I don't know if you remember, we had this pandemic thing. I wrote a memoir of my time of being a Teletubby called Over the Hills and Far Away. And then that was so successful that I wrote a stage show based on that. So I've been touring, that's the one. And I've been touring that ever since. So that was a big hit at Edinburgh Fringe, and I'm continuing to tour through 2025 with Confessions of a Teletubby. So that's mostly what I'm up to at the moment, although I also write other things and do some children's storytelling as well.
Oh, that's amazing.
Wonderful.
John, can we just talk to you about the voices? Because there used to be a lot of headlines at the time. Maybe people, critics said maybe bad for toddlers who were learning how to speak, and you kind of spoke this sort of Teletubby language. Was there any certain technique or rule behind the voice?
We just lost a few syllables here and there. And you know what? Where are those critics now? What do they know? Bye-bye. We can't help it. They're stupid, can we? It's been proved to be a success. It's been proved to be popular. It's been proved to be inclusive. So, yeah, I suppose if something's new, you don't get it. And they didn't get it. But I was thinking, if you don't get something, stop talking for a while and work it out. So, yeah, so what we were doing is talking as best we could like toddlers, losing the odd syllable here and there. Because if you think about it, the Tubbies are effectively, Nikki can correct me if I'm wrong, around about 18 months old.
Yeah. Well, and hugely, the success speaks for itself. Nikki?
And true, and the toddlers these days, 30-year-olds these days who watch the Teletubbies, they all seem to have a good grasp of the language, so it wasn't too bad in the end.
Yeah, I mean, we did get slagged off for kind of dumbing down language, but Andy Davenport, who created the show with Anne Wood, he was a child linguistic specialist, and so what he did with us with the language was, as toddlers do, they learn the tune, they have the cadence before they have the vocabulary to fill it, and so that was kind of how it was with Teletubbies, and we had a list of vocabulary that we knew, like the "eh-oh" and the "run away" and again, and those things. We had a very specific list, and then if the narrator said something that we hadn't heard before, we just kind of have a go at repeating it in exactly the way that toddlers do. So it was actually enhancing children's learning rather than dumbing down.
Oh, wow, that's fascinating to hear that explanation. We just heard Nikki say a little bit there. John, what about you? Can any of the Teletubby come back to you?
Teletubby, bye-bye.
Dipsy!
Oh, my goodness. All the millennials in the studio right here are tearing up around us right
It
now.
certainly brings everything back.
Yeah.
Doesn't it? Lovely speaking to you. Really lovely to sort of take that walk over the hill and down memory lane. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
What was bye-bye in Teletubby language?
Bye-bye!
Bye-bye.
Oh, bye-bye there. Bye, guys.